I'd like to give a shout out to our newest sponsor, Fog King Sanitizing and Disinfecting. Do you have a positive COVID-19 case at your workplace or residence? You need some cleaners to come in and blast the shit out of their area? These are the guys to do it. So go to fogkings.ca and get yourself a quote, reach out, and they'll be back to you in no time. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my sponsor, Rycor Countertops. They deal in custom countertops in quartz, Corian, Meganite, laminate, and butcher block. They also have custom kitchen cabinetry, closets, laundry rooms, and millwork. They're family owned and operated for 18 years, knowledgeable and highly experienced staff, and friendly customer service. Head on over to 1069 Clark Road. Check out their showroom today. Just kidding. The tear.
I actually like the show too, man. Like I didn't realize you were such a chatty Cathy.
I'm not. That's the thing.
Honestly, you kind of are, man.
The thing is, the reason I'm doing the podcast is to work on that skill set.
Yeah.
Because I feel like sometimes I can be like nervous, or especially when you're talking to fighters. Mm-hmm. You guys are a different breed. You can say the wrong thing, or you don't want to piss anybody off, or offend anybody. Yeah. But talking is a craft you have to definitely work on. No doubt. Anyways, that's what I'm trying to do. Anyways, is just trying to get better. But without further ado, today, ladies and gentlemen, my special guest, Handsome Scott Hudson. Handsome for the obvious reasons, except for the mustache. Just kidding. Scott Hudson is arguably one of the best in the country. He's on a 5-fight tear right now, just coming back from XFC. Where is that?
They do shows all over the States and Brazil.
Where was the last one?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, hot.
Hot.
How was that?
The event was amazing, but like being in Atlanta was kind of strange because I was there during the election.
Oh,
right?
Wow!
And I don't know if you remember when George Floyd was killed. There was big protests and big riots in Atlanta. It was one of the hot spots for that. Mm-hmm. And
was it seem tense there?
Well, what happened was that I think that they were anticipating something happening, maybe if Trump won or whatever. So a lot of the businesses were closed and boarded up.
Wow.
So it was really a ghost town. And it took me a day to kind of realize, where are the people? There wasn't really anything going on in the city. The parks were closed. Businesses were closed. Like some of the better restaurants were looking for places to eat and looking for places where you can get food and stuff like that, and they were just full blown closed. The Starbucks in the hotel closed, boarded up.
Oh shit!
You know what I mean? So it was kind of strange, but I mean, luckily nothing ended up happening, and I guess it was all for naught. But better safe than sorry, I guess.
Scary times.
It was strange. It was like a ghost town, right? It was weird.
Let's dive into you, bro.
All right.
Let's go back into your martial arts career. Let's take you back as a kid. How to start for you? How the fuck would you want to wreck your pretty face?
I never had a traditional martial arts upbringing. I tried karate when I was a kid and I wasn't really into it. At the Y, and I really liked, fighting and martial arts movies and stuff like that. And I was a pretty aggressive kid. Mm-hmm. But and I did enjoy getting into fights in hockey and in the schoolyard and stuff like that. And I think I was probably my age demographic was probably the last sort of demographic of kids that were they would fist fight each other or over a disagreement or something like that. Where now kids are getting stabbed in schools and stuff. Yeah, they just shoot each other. So that was a thing. But I never had a traditional martial arts upbringing. I started boxing as a teenager.
Where was that? Where'd you do that?
Well, interesting story. I'm from Mississauga.
Okay.
So I was lifting weights when I was probably 18 or 19 years old in a Premier Fitness. Mm-hmm. And Steve Molitor and his coach started training out of that gym in Mississauga, right? I'm not sure what happened with their actual gym, but they had a studio section of this gym with wood paneling floors, and they put some bags up and stuff like that. And they just started showing up, right? And obviously I knew who Steve was from seeing him on TV because he was Canada's top boxer at the time. Mm-hmm. And his coach, Chris Johnson, was with him as well. And it took me months to get the nerve up to go over and because they started running training sessions with some, various skill levels and beginners and stuff like that. But it took me months and months and months to get the nerve up to go over and say hey, can I train? How do I get into it? This and that. Mm-hmm. And when I did, I just started boxing recreationally there. And that was like my introduction into combat sports.
That's crazy. Steve Molitor.
Yeah, and it was Steve Molitor, right? And like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I even like at the time I didn't realize like how high level he was. You know what I mean? But I remember watching his fights on TV because they used to promote his fights at Casino Rama.
See, we had him on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. I knew who he was, obviously, but I didn't know him.
Yeah.
And then talking with him was pretty intense.
Yeah. He was like the best fighter going in Canada for a while. Yeah.
It was intense because his story is intense. Like,
True.
you know, his brother and being at the very, very top tier of everything, and then losing everything, and then alcohol and drugs, and it's such a fucking sport that can definitely eat you up if you don't know how to handle the fame.
Yeah.
That's the scary part about it. Especially if you make it really big, what happens to you at that level?
Yeah.
People can hold the shit together now because it's easy to. But when you imagine you having like, you're making $200,000 a fight, and all of a sudden you got your house on an episode of Cribs. How does that affect you? How do you change? So anyways, back to Steve Molitor and boxing.
So I started training there, and I was just boxing recreationally. I didn't really have any plans on competing or whatever. And MMA in particular and UFC was like blowing up, and Pride was still a thing at the time.
What year was this, by the way?
So I was probably, I don't know.
So you're 18, 19, you what?
15 years ago, maybe 2006. Oh, no. Yeah, 2007, 2008 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. And then that kind of was just, I was just learning boxing. And I became more interested in MMA because it was getting super popular at the time. George St. Pierre was already massive. You know what I mean? Somebody that I really looked up to, obviously. And I was a big fan of fighting. And I had it in me, you know what I mean? Like I said before, I enjoyed physical altercations with people in sports and in school, you know what I mean? Like people think that it's like, oh, he might have had an anger issue or something like that, or like this is what your parents think. But and I didn't really have the heart to tell them, but like I kind of liked it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Actually, I did. And so I wanted to, pursue something else. I wanted to compete in something as well, right? So I kind of had my mind made up that like I'm gonna try and see how this goes, not knowing really anything. So I got into Muay Thai and I started training around a little bit. And then like when I was really, really green, like when I was just a beginner, I traveled to Thailand and I trained at a couple of Muay Thai gyms out there. Sing Patong in Phuket, which is like a real traditional Thai style gym that's super popular now. And Tiger Muay Thai. And when I started training there.
What year did you go there?
2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was there in 2007.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. 6 months I was there.
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, bro, at the time, they only had 3 rings and a very, very small grappling area because at the time they had Chris Cyborg's boyfriend. What's his name?
Ray Elby, yeah.
Ray Elby.
Same with me, yeah.
Yeah, so he was there at the time, Magical Ray Elby, that was it. And he was like the head MMA coach. And there was like a couple bungalows. And they were tearing down the jungle in behind. So all that, I think, and then now you look at it and you're like, holy fuck, the jungle's gone. Now there's like, it's like giant buildings. It was a great place, great time.
Oh yeah, it was great. And like for like the value you get at a place like that, like for everything that you can do training wise, it's fantastic. And I was there 3 years later, so it was a little bit more developed, but it's still nothing compared to what it is now. And the original gym I trained at, Sing Patong, it's like a legendary gym, but my dentist, I had mentioned to him that like I wanted to travel and train and whatnot, just in passing while I was getting my teeth cleaned or something like that. And he was like, "Oh, my daughter is dating a Muay Thai trainer out there. Let me put you in contact with him." And she was dating the owner of this gym, right? And this gym is a gym that cranks out like legit like Lumpini champion fighters, right? I went there and I was getting crushed. Like the first ever real experience I had with Muay Thai was at this place where I was like, I full blown couldn't hack it, man. Like they were killing me.
Yeah.
These guys just train 6 hours a day, right? And like staying in the bungalow, like being around the Thai boys, dying, running, like everything that was going on to it, I was getting crushed, right? So I stuck it out for a while, but I really wanted to get into MMA, and I obviously love Muay Thai. But I went to Tiger as well and got into jiu-jitsu. And then I think I took an amateur fight after doing like a month of jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? So I was super, super green. And I think that really helped me to kind of like get a lot of the bullshit out of the way, was competing early. But the first ever competition I had in combat sports was MMA. I didn't do a grappling tournament first.
No shit.
I didn't do an amateur boxing or anything like that. I eventually did all that, but like the first ever experience I had in competitive martial arts was an amateur MMA fight.
You said, fuck it, I'm gonna run before it.
Yeah. I was there for 5 months too, and then I think I spent a month in Vietnam and then came home.
Who'd you do your Muay Thai with when you came back?
So I went back to Premier to see if there was still boxing going on there, but there was somebody else there.
Yeah.
And then I kind of bounced around from gyms to gym, like a couple of gyms. I went to Combat Arts in Mississauga. And then, okay. And then I went to Dog Pound MMA in Brampton.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
he's a great guy. I forget his name.
Donnie.
Donnie, that's it, Master Donnie.
And Steve,
Master Myung.
Yeah.
Or not
and
Myung.
Steve Vujnovich. So I trained there for a couple of years and it was great. But I needed to move on to a place that had like more of like a structure and development for MMA. And my manager at the time was also Rory's manager. And that's when, like right when Parabellum opened. So I went over to Para after that.
Yeah. How do you feel that Parabellum's closed?
Oh, it's terrible. It's a bummer. Like I've been training there for like 7 years. It's terrible. It's brutal, but we know what can you do?
Yeah. Do you think you'll bounce back? Do you think you'll open back up?
Yeah. Yeah. When things change, like they're not going to do anything else. Like it's what they do for a living. It's what they're good at. So I mean, it's too. Who knows what's going to happen? What the business landscape is going to look like moving forward. So maybe I think you're going to see a lot of martial arts gyms scaling down and getting places that are smaller, that are less maintenance. That because you're not going to be able to. What are you really going to do in a 3,500 square foot place or a 6,000 square foot gym if you can only have 8 people in class? Like large group training is going to be dead for a couple of years, and that's just the truth of.
How does that affect your training now?
Well, the group of pros that we train with is just it's been pretty consistent throughout the pandemic. Like we've just kind of kept our circle tight, and when Para closed, we were training at Para, going to Niagara Top Team quite a bit. When Para closed, they kind of like outfitted one of their garages to train in there. And Bobby Poulter fought for you?
Yep.
Yeah, him and I opened like a private gym.
Oh, okay.
For us to train in and train clients and whatnot. So we have like a spot in Burlington where we have equipment and a roof over our heads.
Okay, so you're still remaining active.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is the devastating thing I'm seeing with fighters now, is especially all these guys are on the cusp of greatness. Not that they're not great, but they're on the cusp of reaching the next level.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's a halt in everything.
Yeah,
and then when you get a halt, you go, fuck, now what do? People are questioning their own careers, say, should I get a job? This pandemic really fucked everything. It fucked everything hard. But I'm happy to see that you're still active and you're still going and you're still on this tear. Let's go back to your very first fight. I want to go back. I'm just kind of jump all over the place. The first fight that you had, where was that?
Thailand. So like my first trip to Thailand, I had a couple amateur MMA fights. I had a couple Thai boxing fights.
Okay, so you did all that over there.
Yeah.
Okay, and then where was your first fight here?
It was in Port Huron with Woody.
Okay, and how did you get that fight?
My manager at the time had he knows Woody, and he was looking for amateur fighters, and it's how those cards were, like 20 people on the card. Like it was a bit of a shit show. It was in a bar in Port Huron, Michigan somewhere. And drove down there. I think, and like at this time I had like pretty much decided like I want to be a fighter. I'm gonna give this a go, training hard, kind of focusing my life and my routine around training to become something. And I don't remember the name of the guy that I fought, but I hadn't fought I think in over a year, just because there was nothing really for me, but I had been training, you know what I mean? And so I went in there. I had some friends travel with me, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but he took me down, I'm pretty sure, and then I just armbarred him off my back, but it happened quick. Like it happened in like 20 seconds.
Yeah, Woody
or
told me,
like
he said, he goes,
and
everyone counted you out.
Yeah.
They didn't know who you were.
Yeah, I guess there was no reason why they would know who I am anyway, but I think I had like a little bit of experience before then, but that was my first fight back in North America. And finished him really quickly. Super happy. It's really cool. And I was really happy to get that one off my chest. And then I think I fought for Woody like 2 or 3 more times after that. And I think, I think after that fight, even the first 2 amateur MMA fights, I think they were both first round finishes. I think all of my amateur MMA fights were first round finishes. Actually, I'm positive they were. And I think by the time I decided to go pro, I really only had like 11 minutes of ring time, right? Which is not the smartest idea, right? But yeah, so that was that. And I fought for who else? I fought for Woody like in the middle of a street one time. Like they set up a cage in the middle of the street
Really?
at some like festival. Yeah,
That's
it was nuts outside. It had rained a little bit. Yeah, those events were wild.
Yeah.
Absolute madness.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then you fought for me in 2014.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that fight.
Yeah, it was
What a
great.
banger. Holy. So what do you do outside of fighting?
Coach.
Just coaching?
Yeah, like that's what I do for a living. Other than that, like, not much. Like, are you asking like what my interests are?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what do you do besides fighting? Because we can probably talk fights all day, but it's really, I just kind of want to see what makes you tick. But what is it about you that's different that if you're not, or do you eat, sleep, breathe fighting? Because listen, bro, to be honest, I love martial arts. I love mixed martial arts, but I don't watch it all the time.
True.
It's hard to like, sometimes I don't even like talking about it because it's like, I eat, sleep, and breathe it.
Yeah.
If I'm eat, sleeping, and breathing it, sometimes I want to refresh in conversation and talk about something else.
Yeah.
So, you married?
Yeah, I'm married. I got married in August of 2019, which was just in the nick of time too. Because if we would have waited another year, we would have been fucked.
Yeah. Is your wife very supportive of what you do?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. She didn't give you a hard time?
Never.
Parents?
Yeah, my parents are really supportive. Like they, my mom, she doesn't like watch the fights, but she is super supportive. Like she'll always support me in anything I'll do. She's always kind of given me the chance to figure it out on my own. You know what I mean? Make my own mistakes. So yeah, she was supportive from day one. Took some warming up to get her to like actually watch the fights. Actually, the only fight she ever actually came to, I got TKO'd by Prepelec, yeah.
Wow.
Or actually other one, but there's been lots of fights where she was just like, I'm not doing it. And I guess somebody had convinced her to come because they had like extra seats at the table.
Yeah.
And it was like super traumatic for her, you know what I mean?
I bet.
So that was that. It doesn't matter what's going to happen. I doubt she's ever going to come again. But once she knows the results, she'll watch.
Yeah. That's crazy. Prepelec. Was that your toughest fight to date?
I wouldn't like in the fight. It wasn't the toughest. Like obviously he's a tough fight and he's a tough fighter and he's very good. But up until the time I got stopped, like I felt that I was doing good in the fight. I felt like I probably won the first round, maybe close. But the thing about Prepelec is, and even going into this fight, I knew one of the toughest things about fighting him is that he's not going to kind of take a step back. And he's going to make you pay for making mistakes, right? And like I think I was doing what I wanted to do in that fight, and then you zig when you should have zagged, and that's the fight game, right? But to be honest with you, like going into that fight, I had a fantastic camp. You know, I was strong, I was prepared, everything was going good, and I can look back on those types of fights and say, you know, you did everything you could, you made a mistake, and that's it. So I can look back on that and be happy with it, right? It's a lot easier to do it that way than to look back on a loss and be like, oh man, like, you kind of let that one go, you know what I mean? Or you weren't fully prepared or something.
Would you learn how to, because you went on a fucking tear after that.
Yeah.
So did that loss wake you up and say, hey man, I need to fucking...
No. I don't think it was that, because I took that fight really seriously. And at the time, like I had the reason that I brought up the feeling I had after the fight was because I do know how it feels to like have a loss where you're like, man, like you kind of let yourself down on that one. You know, you kind of, you didn't do all the right things that you should have done. And you maybe didn't take it as seriously as you should have. And you know, you deserve what happened.
Are you hard on yourself?
I think so, yeah. I'm pretty self-critical, even in the good times.
Really?
Yeah.
Like how so?
like when I like, it's just strange. Like people, like if I look back on my fights and I actually watch them and stuff like that, there's things with like your feet that people don't look at. Like if I'm watching two other people fight, I don't pay attention to that stuff at all. But I'm like, oh, why did I step here? Why didn't I bring my hand back to my chin here? Look at my head on this takedown. Look at this, right? And even if it's good, it's still kind of like, it's hard to watch yourself do anything. You know what I mean? Like if you were to watch yourself on a security camera or something like that, you're like, look at this guy, you know, like.
I can't even watch it on my own podcast.
Oh no,
bro.
it's
I don't even watch
tough.
them
It's tough, right? But if it's, I think it's good. Like it helps you improve. But it's hard to watch. I think it's hard to watch yourself. And I'm not like, unless you're like an egomaniac and you're like, fucking just like watching yourself, your knockout highlight reels on repeat or something like that. It's a little weird.
There's a lot of people that are like that though.
Yeah, these are ever.
They just want to see. You know?
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, it's strange. It's strange, but yeah, like I'm pretty self-critical. Even after the fights, like I always try to go back and like identify several things that I did successful and several things that need work, even after strong fights. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it's been working out. But I would say like when I had a couple of fights back here. Like after I fought for you. I fought one more time in Red Deer and picked up another win. And then I moved back to Thailand because I got sponsored by a gym out there. And I think I won I like 2 or 3 more fights, a little bit of Muay Thai as well. And then I had a fight for WSOF in China.
Okay.
And that was a draw. But that was like a really good fight against like a good high-level opponent, against a black belt. And I was like, even with the result, and I lost a point in that fight. For hitting him in the back of the head accidentally. So I mean, if I hadn't lost the point, that would have been a win. And then so I think that was like 4 or 5 in a row then, right? Four in a row. And then I came back here. I got back to training at Para, and I fought Craig Shintani in Yellowknife, and it was one of my better fights. Like I did what I wanted in that fight. I didn't even feel like it was super competitive. Like I feel like I clean sweeped him and I lost the decision. And one of the judges gave it 30-27 for him. And it was almost like they accidentally switched the scorecards, right? And like when they raised his hand, like the entire crowd is like, what? You know what I mean? I was like, are you kidding me? You know what I mean? And then like the ref comes into my locker room after, man, you got robbed. Like, I don't know what happened there. The promoter, the announcers, everybody's coming in being like, that was fucked up, right? And we tried to like file an appeal and stuff like that. And
appeals never really go anywhere, man.
No, but you want to set a precedent that you're going to stick up for yourself, right? And the athletic commission in not Yukon, Northwest Territories, I guess we're just like we don't do that. Like
there's no appeals.
Yeah, there's no appeals, buddy. Sorry.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So that was one of my better fights. Like that was like a strong fight for me against a good opponent. And I was taking him down, ground and pound, like winning exchanges. He didn't really land one shot of any significance in the fight. And that was a strange one. But I got right back to it again, and I went and fought down in Ohio, and I fought a guy named Andrew Law. And that I got disqualified for kneeing him on the ground. So he was a grounded opponent. Fully a mistake. Like I was just finishing up my combination. He was already finished and he couldn't continue, right? But he was full blown down. It was just a situation where I was, finishing up my combination and kind of hit him as his knee hit the ground. And, like a mistake on my part. So that was a disqualification loss. So I went from 2 of my better fights being losses, right? Like 2 of probably my best fights of my career coming out as L's, right? Wow. And then I think after that fight, I started with BTC. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was BTC after that.
Did you fight for the score?
I fought when Woody did his fight in Sarnia. That was like my second pro fight.
Okay.
Yeah. Might have been.
Oh yeah, that's right. So okay.
Yeah. So we're way past that.
I'm missing that timeline there for a second. Never mind. And then BTC, and then you went on a tear. Do you train at Burlington Training Center?
Not anymore. No.
Not anymore.
No, we have parted ways.
Okay. Good or bad?
Bad.
How come? Can we talk about it?
Yeah, we can talk about it. It was just over money and
yeah.
They
Because you were like the poster boy there.
Yeah. They didn't want to. They were there. We had some disagreements over money, and I think they took it a little bit personally. And
like money, like money, or like
no, like I was coaching there.
Okay.
Right. So the money that I was taking home coaching started being a lot less.
Yeah.
And I wasn't okay with that. Mm-hmm. So now I opened my own place and I keep all the money.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, sorry.
So like,
shine a light on it. But.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Like, we're still cool. All of the, I still train with everybody, and nothing changes there. But, professional relationship is over.
It's mixing business and pleasure. Yeah, I guess you could say sometimes don't always match up, man. Especially when you got a family, right?
Yeah,
a wife, and you're trying to make ends meet, and not getting enough fights. I mean. You can't pay the bills with just fights alone. No, you can't. So I think everybody has to have that second go-to, which is whether training other people or
If you're gonna like be in fighting, you have to find a way to monetize that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's not necessarily, if you get to the point where you can live off your fight purses, that's great. But man, you got to believe that unless you're making big money, that's equally as stressful. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because if you're going to put all of your eggs in a win bonus, you know what I mean? At the best of times, that's fickle. You know what I mean? So you've got to figure out a way to capitalize on what you're doing in MMA or in boxing or whatever it is, but the likelihood of you being able to, the people who have an exceptional life off of the money they make in prize fighting is small, right? So if for me, I obviously want to be involved in the sport. I make good, I make good money off purse. And I'm pretty smart with my money. Mm-hmm. I don't blow it on anything. I save everything. But I mean, the bulk of my income comes from like coaching other people, and I get like a little bit of money from sponsors and this and that, but and other things associated with competing as well. But if you can't kind of if you want to be involved in the sport, you kind of have to find a niche, whether it's coaching or online or
different sources of revenue streams,
anything like that. But I mean, it would be.
What kind of advice would you give yourself if you had your time back to restart all over again in this fight game? What advice would you give yourself that would change the outcome of how things are now with you?
I want to say be a little bit more patient, but the truth is that like I didn't have my first fight until I was 23. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I didn't even really, train properly until I was 23. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So that's like if you look at like Anthony Romero or something like that, I think he's like 21 or 22. You know what I mean? Look at where he is in his career.
Is he that young?
And he's a young man. Yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, even when I was professional, I wasn't really taking my career seriously. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I was messing around a little bit, and I didn't see the potential, right? And when you're young like that, like, it takes a level of maturity to, like, kind of see a bigger picture. And I was having fun. I obviously love training, and I was doing that a lot. And but I didn't really take it as seriously because I didn't have the maturity or the confidence in myself to say, like, you can do this for a living. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And now that I do, the past few years have been like a lot more stable for me.
No, what changed? Just maturity?
I think so too. And like, you things happen in your career where you're like, I can do this. You know what I mean? Like I can do this. Fighters have like, like imposter syndrome, where like good things start happening to you and people self-sabotage. That you see fighters do that all the time, where they start having a little bit of success and they don't think they're like worthy of it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they self-sabotage themselves to kind of like knock.
What do you mean, like, not worthy of it?
Like, have you ever? You see this with people a lot, where when it's like people are afraid of success. And this is not necessarily my experience, but I see it with fighters a lot, where like they don't realize that they're good. They don't realize that like you can make a career doing this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But they're working security, or they're working this, or they're doing that. They're doing that. What's that Buckley guy who had that crazy Joaquin Buckley, who had that crazy spinning kick knockout? He caught his kick, and he's coming off like 2 highlight reel wins in a row. That guy works at a Walgreens.
No shit.
He works at a Walgreens in the U.S. And if you're Canadian, you're not familiar with that. That's like what a Shoppers Drug Mart is.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, imagine that guy stocking shelves in a Walgreens. He's freaking incredible. You know what I mean?
Doesn't know it's true. Imagine what he would get out of it if he put it all in.
Oh, you kidding me?
I think that's with anything, bro. I think if you're gonna do something, you have to go all in.
Yeah.
I live by that on pretty much everything that I do too. It's like if I want to do something, I got to do it to the extreme. Okay, all in. I got to do it all in, all the way, because it's the only way I know how. It's the only way I think it'll work. It's hard when you have full-time jobs, families, bills to pay, because the fights don't pay you.
But even for me, like I got a job like at a grocery store near Para, and I was working an 8-hour shift and then going to train for 3 hours. And I'm like, come on, like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean?
You're not going to get the same results, I don't think.
No.
That's why it's amazing when you see guys that can pull off those kind of results.
Oh, yeah.
With work on the side.
It's crazy,
and
right?
other stuff.
And like, you know, you've got to figure out a way to make money. But I want to be involved in the sport, and I do that, you know, through competing and coaching, and that way it keeps me dialed in. And it's really cool that I can like show all of my students that the things that I teach you, like I can actively put into practice. It's not like I did, you know, American kickboxing in the 70s or something like that. And then like, you know, I'm teaching you this now. Like I can actually say like, hey, look, trust me, this works. You know, this is how you do things. And I think that's a super rewarding part of what I do.
Do you have a 5-year plan?
Not
Not
necessarily. Like, I mean, things have kind of changed for me now because like I'm married and we just bought a house. You know what I mean? So,
what's your wife do?
She's a university student.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's she studying?
Social work. Yeah. So she's starting her master's next year, and so she's got another year of school. But yeah, it's kind of a weird question when people like you ever have a job interview and it's like, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And it's like, I don't. You know, you can answer that question, but like, really, come on, like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason I asked that is because like some guys go, well, you know, if I can't get to the position where I need to be in 5, then I'm gonna call it a day and stick to focus on training guys or finding that full-time job. Like the shelf life of a fighter is, you know, you only have a small window.
Yeah. Well, so
if 10 years, we'll say.
If I'm 33 right now, it would be hard for me to imagine myself fighting at a high level at 38, right? So 5 years, that's a little bit of a stretch. You never know, right? Like it could happen, and I think I take care of my body pretty well.
Because I think you're on the cusp now, bro.
Yeah, and I don't have like a ton of miles on my body. It's not like I was wrestling when I was 11. You know what I mean? Where you see Muay Thai fighters by the time they're 21, they have 200 fights. You see guys who, you know, wrestled in college for years, hundreds, thousands of matches, you know, neck is ruined, back is ruined, and they can't keep it together long enough throughout their MMA career for anything to really materialize for them, right? So that's important as well. But I mean, as of right now, like I have a good life, you know, like I'm doing what I want. I wake up every day and I kind of do what I want to do. I call my own shots. I get to compete professionally as an athlete in something that I love to do. I get to pass on knowledge to other people. I get to create my own schedule. I get to create my own training schedule. I get to spend time around people that I want to. I don't have a tyrant boss. I don't answer to anybody. And I can put my head on my pillow at the end of the night and say that, like, you know, I'm doing it. I'm doing what I want to do, and I'm doing it my way.
Yeah.
It's a good
And you're
feeling.
happy. And you're happy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, like, I had never heard of the XFC, and now I just see it everywhere. And that's what you're fighting for right now. You've been like, what is it? Is it like a tournament or?
Yeah. So XFC, I think they've run like 44 events. So they were doing events all over the U.S. and Brazil, and they spent a lot of times promoting solely in Brazil. And then they took a little bit of a break, but they're back now, and they've got to deal with NBC Sports. Which in turn creates like fantastic exposure for them, right? And they have a tournament format for the lightweight division and the welterweight division, but they also have like super fights with people who they can get that are a little bit higher, like bigger name fighters, and they have like like sort of something that's a little bit separate, where they want to start to like build and cultivate their own talent. But I think that they've got like a good promotion team. Like I think that what they're doing is smart, and there's a reason that you're seeing it everywhere now, right? Because
are you in a tournament right now? Like you did a fight and you're gonna go back again soon, or
so on the 11th of this month, I fought and won the quarterfinal of the lightweight tournament. So now I'm moving on to the semis, and it looks like they're going to be in February back in Atlanta.
Do you know who you're fighting?
Kurt Holabo.
What do you know about him?
Fought in the UFC, fought on Contender Series. He's a good fighter. He's very experienced. A little bit smaller than me. He's got decent hands. He's like very scrappy. He's a black belt, so he's got good jiu-jitsu off his back. I think that in kickboxing range and in wrestling, I should be able to handle him though. Yeah.
Is there a bunch of Canadians who are doing this right now?
Ryan Dixon went down there too, right?
Yeah. So Ryan Dixon is from Hamilton, same place that I live, and he won his fight. There was a guy named Spencer Jebb who's from out west, who he lost, but he was in the welterweight tournament. Ryan was also in the welterweight tournament. And then there's another guy from out west named Tom O'Connor, who is a lightweight, and he's in my tournament on the other side of the bracket. He fought a guy named Jose Caceres, who is the only person to give Kamaru Usman a loss.
No shit.
And Tom won. And I don't think I don't know Tom personally, but I don't think that like a lot of people were expecting him to win this fight. And the fight was a little bit ugly, but he got it done. He finished him in the third round. I was actually impressed that he did it. It was good.
Oh shit!
So did you get like an invitation, or you apply for it, like for this tournament? How did that even come about?
They contacted me about fighting in the welterweight division.
They contact you or your manager?
I don't really have a manager.
I was gonna ask.
I have
who's your management now? Are
no,
you just doing
I have
yourself?
I'm doing it myself, but I kind of have like a couple people that look out for me. Like they're almost like brokers.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? But we can talk about that after. And they contacted me about a welterweight tournament, and I wasn't like walking around heavy enough. Like I'm not averse to fighting at welterweight, but I just wasn't heavy enough. I wasn't lifting a lot, and I was like, especially like, I don't know, like, you know, some of these guys are monsters at welterweight, right? Just full blown bigger than me, and that's why I like 65, so I don't have to cut all that weight, but I can kind of force.
I wish they had
that weight. Oh, man, it's
just throw that weight in there.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I turned down the welterweight spot, and I said, "Hey, you got anything lightweight?" And they're like, "Oh, we're full up." I'm like, you know, whatever. They seemed really interested for me at welterweight, and then like not interested at all at lightweight. So they posted something on their Instagram that said, you know, who do you want to see the XFC sign? And I reposted that in my Instagram story and said like, hey guys, like go to this page, tag me in the comments, and try to see if we can blow them up, and you know. See if this gets any traction at all. And it worked, because that post got blown up with my name through everybody who, you know, my friends and family and fans that support me. And I think they called me the next day.
Just like that.
Yeah. And we're like, hey.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
No
That's
shit.
awesome.
Yeah.
And is there like a prize money or something? Like, I'm obviously get paid to fight, but if you win, do you get some sort of
so you
belt or extra money?
You have your contracted purse for every fight in the tournament. But on top of that, if you win the tournament, you become XFC's lightweight champion, and they're throwing $20,000 cash on top of that as well, US. Yeah, so it's a good deal.
Fuck yeah, yeah, it is. And that's February.
Yeah, so the semis are in February.
Gotcha.
You win that, then there'll be one more fight. That's the finals.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I was speaking with the commission about 2 weeks ago. He said they weren't even doing licensing.
They're not going to bother licensing fighters in 2021 or 2021.
I don't. Well, this year for sure.
Yeah.
So I don't. I'm just curious how that's going to work for you guys for next year, because if you fight in the States, you have to be licensed in the province you're from, right?
No. I never actually got my license for 2020. I sent the commission all of my.
I was just curious to how that works.
No.
Like if it's closed here, does it affect you guys?
No,
going
like
elsewhere?
I don't. No. I sent the commission all my. I got all of my medicals done, but I never paid my licensing fee, because I was like, let's just see how this plays out. Like it's only $50, but
because last time I saw you was in March. The last show in
Yeah,
Toronto.
I saw your show. Yeah. And I don't think I ever ended up finishing the licensing process, but I still applied for my license in Georgia. No problem.
No shit.
No, it's fine.
They're so strict here, which I get it.
Yeah.
I understand that they got to be strict, but it's like, fuck, the medicals are extensive, man.
Yeah, it's not that bad. Like I think my family doctor, who I've been going to since I was born, he takes care of all that stuff for me. So I go see him every year in November. He knows why I'm there, gets everything settled for me. You can start doing these tests end of December. You know, January 1st, everything should be ready to go. You send it into the commission and boom, you're good for the year. So I've got it to a point where it's just like clockwork for me. I'm not running around ever to do anything.
It's amazing because a lot of guys do.
Yeah.
They can't get it because everything expires. You know, got 30 days, then they forget to do this one, and then that one expires. It's amazing.
You got to get it in. I think that the first time you do it, it's super stressful. Even probably for the first couple of years I ever had to get licensed in Ontario, it's stressful. Like getting all this stuff, figuring out timing the appointments properly, you know, because you've got to wait for your requisition for the CT scan, for example, and then you've got to make sure your blood works within a certain time frame of that. So it can be tough, but I mean, at the same time, like, figure it out. And I think that like some fighters have a problem with their doctor not having OHIP cover it. So like if I go see my doctor, he sends in all the requisitions for me and I don't have to worry about anything. I'm not having to pay for anything. I have had to before because I was crunched for time. But if you are ahead of the game, like the way that I do it, and to be fair, I only do it this way because I've done it so many times that it's something that I'm accustomed to. But yeah, just be a professional. Get your
fuck yeah. You'd be surprised how many guys you babysit.
Oh yeah,
because they miss appointment or they don't take it serious or like, oh well, I'll just get another appointment. It's not that easy, man.
No, it's not.
You know, it's not like we're fortunate enough we have Faisal.
Yeah,
Faisal's been like a fucking heaven sent because he makes sure that you're on top of it and makes sure that you show up for the appointments. But you'd be surprised how many guys miss. Yeah, they don't even show up to the appointment. Or I got sidetracked. Well, fuck. I mean, we lose fights all the time because of that. Yeah, it's brutal. Let's talk about management. Why don't you have a manager?
I don't want to pay him.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Right. For something that you can do yourself?
Yeah. Like if you're talking like 10% on the low end. Yeah.
Which is the low end. It's usually 20.
20% on the high end. So say even if you call it like 15. Yeah. If they're going to take 15% of like everything they get from sponsors and everything they get from purse.
They take from your sponsors too, bro.
If they get the sponsors, yeah. If they acquire a sponsor for you, a cash sponsor, they're going to take 15% of that. Wow. A lot of them have like contracted in like ticket sales as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So if you're with, and here's the thing too, is that if you're in a position in your career where there is like tens and thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars that need to be negotiated, then it's probably worth having somebody qualified in there to do that for you. But like if I'm going to pay you 20%, like what are you really doing? You know what I mean? What are you doing?
Because at the end of the day, like, I mean, there's some managers that are great.
Yeah.
You know, I've dealt with a lot of them that were, you know, definitely for the fighter. Yeah. But I've also found that a lot of managers that once you come off a loss, they don't give a shit about you. Yeah. And that should be like a telltale sign of
I've never experienced that, but it's just like when you look at what you're being paid, and even on the low end, like if you're starting your career off, like the manager is going to lose it for you. Like if you're only getting paid $1,000, like what are they going to be doing that's worth $100? You know what I mean?
That you couldn't do over a phone call.
Yeah, it's strange, right? So once you start making more money and that number becomes higher, you've got to just think, is it worth it? What are they doing for you? And this is like something that you've got to figure out on yourself. But if you're a fighter and you're a little bit more proactive and you understand the game a little bit better, that's different. Like when I was fighting for BTC, I would just essentially work with Rob one-on-one, and he was the matchmaker, so he would be like, you know, we have, you know, these guys that we might try to bring in for you, or is there anybody that you want to fight? And you know, I'll talk to my coaches about it. Like when we fought Kyle, for example, I was trying to get to the next level, and we requested to fight Kyle. You know what I mean? We were like, let's try to get like the prep leg fight, and you know, we got it. But they were super receptive to that type of stuff. Like, and if you're willing to work with the matchmaker directly, then it's, you know,
it's so much easier.
You're cutting out the middleman, right?
Yeah.
Another thing too is that like there are a lot of fighters that want to hide behind their manager because they're like, oh, it's not my team doesn't think it's the right fight for me.
Oh yeah. I've heard that a lot.
I'm gonna go talk to my team.
Yeah. And it's funny, you don't have to talk to your team when it's a fight that they accept.
Yeah.
All right, what about this guy? Yeah, I'll take him. You don't want to talk to your team about that? Sure you do. Right? Hear that quite a bit. Well, that's good. It's good to see guys realizing that they can fucking do it themselves.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta know what you're getting into. Read your contracts. So many guys don't even read, which is unfucking real. Guys don't read.
Like, have you ever given somebody a contract, like a fight contract, and they just sign it, they don't read it?
Every time.
There could have been anything in there.
Every time.
You could be taking their firstborn in that contract, and they didn't even fucking read it.
No. Why do you think that is?
Man, it's just like, I feel like they're
Do you think it's just
excitement,
fights,
or they're excited,
not being patient,
or
just
they don't know their value? Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, they're not it's I don't know. It's just, at least read it. At least see what's in there before you make a decision.
I mean, for the most part, I think most guys are pretty good, but I've seen guys they don't even read it at all.
Yeah. And it's almost always the same stuff in there, but it's pretty stock. But read it over.
You ever see anything shifty or shady in the contract?
Did
you ever fight TKO?
No, I didn't.
No,
and
that's the reason I bring that up.
No, I think I turned them down once because, again, they wanted me for like 5 fights or something like that, and they're like, that's a pretty big commitment for, you know, something like that, especially because I think it was like in between one of my BTC fights when I was just trying to stay active, and the fight was good. It wasn't that. It was going to be a good fight, but they wanted me for something like 3 or 5 fights or something like that, and I was just like, I can't commit to that, right?
They had a thing in their in their contract was like, if you turn down a fight with them, your contract is extended for 6 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and a lot of guys saw that but didn't read it. Like, it was in the contract, and he was transparent about it. Obviously, it was in the contract, but because they never read the fine print, they never read everything. Yeah, guys were signing themselves to contracts, and then what would happen is they would take a fight. They would refuse a fight. Yeah. So they get offered a fight, and then be like, I don't want this fight. Doesn't look really good for me. Okay, they leave you alone, and then your contract's been extended for 6 months. They can come back and offer you the same guy again and say no, and then they can basically bench you.
Just shelve you.
Just put you on the bench.
Yeah, that's rough, man.
It's tough.
To be fair.
And I get it. Yeah. I understand why they do it, because it's the whole point is, you know, we need to put fights together, so here's who I got. But remember, most promotions, if not all, are trying to develop the guys that are with them. Yep. So if you're going somewhere else, you're being brought in to lose. Yep. For the most part. Yeah. I mean, maybe not always. Yep. Certain situations, like you can say, like, you have a guy and say, "Hey, man, this guy's really good. I kind of see if I can work with him and develop him because could be a big star." But for the most part, it's you're building up your regional guys. Yep. So you want them to win. Yeah, and you see guys like that are actually proactively trying to get competitive fights that are gonna like build their experience level as well, because if you're smart with your career, you should be taking like progressive steps in competition, right? A little bit harder, a little bit tougher. This guy's this guy's that, a little bit tougher. But then you see other promotions where like the guys that they're building around, they're just pumping cans in there, and it's like, come on, like you're gonna run it back with this guy and try to sell me on this fight against a guy with a losing record or something like that. Yeah. But to be fair, anyway, I never actually got to the point where I read the TKO contract, because once I heard that it was for 5 fights, I didn't even bother. I was like, full stop, no dice. Yeah. So I can't comment on what specifically was in there, if there was anything sketchy in there. Somebody told me that there's a UFC clause where 20%. They get 20%. Oh, was it? Somebody told me that they basically become your manager. That's what it was. Is that they kind of like absorb you into their roster. See, I'm mixed on this. Yeah. One, as a promoter, I would never do that. Yeah. Because that's your career. Yeah. That's why I don't do multi-fight contracts. I have some, but that's usually on the request of an athlete. And an athlete's like, "Hey, man, can I sign with you and stay with you for 3 fights?" Yeah, absolutely. If that's what you want to do. But I would never hold it to them. If let's say you sign a 3-fight contract with me and you're like, "Hey, bro, I know there's a break in between. Could I take a fight here?" Absolutely. Fuck it, for sure. Stay active. maybe it'd be different if you were the champ.
Yep.
Because, you never want your champion to go somewhere else and lose. Because then it just kind of fucks your whole point of having a champion, right? But for the most part, I can understand them wanting a piece of the pie because it's them that gets you there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it as well.
Right.
And like that's why reading the contracts is important, because like I don't want you to go read a contract, sign it, and then complain about it after because you agreed to it. You know what I mean? If there's something that it's in there that you don't like, ask them to remove it or work around it or anything like that. But if you sign a contract, honor your contract. So, if you're worried that you're not going to get fights anywhere else, then you've got to get sucked into that, then do it. But at the same time, like it's not rocket science. If you sign a contract with a promotion, you've got to honor it.
Why do you think
the only uniquely terrible thing about MMA contracts is that you can't just leave. Like if I take a job and I sign my contract and I don't like the way I'm being treated, or whatever, I realize, hey, I could do a lot more, make more, a lot of money. I could give him my notice and find another job.
Yeah, but here's the thing. And you know what? You fucking can leave. There's no such thing as you're bound to that. Because I'll tell you right now, 100%, and I went through this avenue before, dealing with guys who were already under contract. Usually you don't offer a guy a fight if you know he's under contract with somebody else. You respect it. But if they come looking for a fight because they can't get a fight somewhere else under the current contract that they're on, you say break your fucking contract then. What are they really going to do?
It's true.
Think about it. What are they really going to do?
Well, they can try to sue you.
Yeah, but you think they will? I don't fucking think so.
I don't think so either.
No fucking way. And I say that because I know I wouldn't. If I had a contract with you for 3 fights and I wasn't giving you the fights and giving you any fights and you were benched and you're like, bro, I need a fight. And I'm like, yeah, I got nothing for you, but just be benched. And then you went and took another fight. You think I'm going to lawyer up and come after you and go, well, here's a contract that he's supposed to be fighting with. No fucking way, man. It's time, energy, and money.
100%. But I guess for some people, if you become a big UFC person and you sign that contract, you sign on TKO, and they can say, hey, well, now you're in the UFC, you have this contract, we still own your 20%. If that makes sense. Even though you didn't fulfill your part of fighting, we still own you.
Yeah,
if you're one of the few people who make good money.
Have you ever heard of the UFC signing somebody who's under contract and then like sort of muscling the promotion into just no, because I haven't heard of that either. Like I think the UFC will like honor the other promotion's contract. Like they don't want to get mixed up in that, it seems like. You know what I mean? Because I've heard of fighters that have been with promotions that have had to turn UFC down because they're under contract, and the UFC is like, listen, if you're under contract, you're under contract. We're not gonna.
Well, it happened with Malcolm Gordon and myself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Malcolm was set to fight Randy Turner on the 3rd PFC, and he got the call for UFC like 2 weeks before the fight, and I called him and I was like, yeah, fuck, dude, like obviously there's no contract, go, like I'm not gonna, would never hold you up on something like that. And he was, yeah, great, and he was super excited. It was great. And literally the next day he called back and said, yeah, they just said if I win the next fight, then
and
I lost. That was a hard fight to watch too.
Yeah,
because he lost, right?
Yeah, he seemed really disappointed after that fight too, and I didn't know what the circumstances.
Yeah,
were.
That was the circumstances around it. Honestly, bro, like when I watched him lose that fight, I like cried. Like I had to like leave the cage side because I was like, fuck, man, like he just watched a guy. I think that's a shitty move though, because like he had all these expectations. When you give somebody that, hey, they dangle the fruit in front of you and they say, hey, man, you do this, you'll get this.
No pressure.
No pressure. What the fuck do you mean? That's a peer pressure. That's nothing but pressure.
And to be in a situation like that, I think a lot of the times the UFC doesn't care who you beat. As long as you're picking up that win, they're satisfied with that. So for him to go out and fight a guy who has the ability to shut him off like that, it's a risk, right? Because
Randy Turner's camp right away was like, get us the video. Yeah. Because like it was like he just had the opportunity. Malcolm just had the opportunity. So now they wanted it for their guy. Made sense, right?
True.
He fought last night.
Yeah. I missed it.
Yeah.
I missed it. Did you watch the Tyson fight?
I watched the Tyson fight, yeah.
What'd you think? I watched it on my phone.
Well, I didn't watch it, so I don't have an opinion.
Oh, so yes. I was very confused because I opened up Triller
Yeah.
And I was like, why is there a Snoop Dogg concert going on right now? So I closed it and I'm like, I literally went on my Google bar and I was like, why is Snoop Dogg doing a concert on the Mike Tyson event? And then it came back and said like, one of the links was Snoop Dogg and so and Neo and all these people like are performing at the event. But this went on before the main event started for like a good 45 minutes. And I'm in bed at this point on my phone, like struggling to keep my eyes open. But I'm like, one, I paid for it. Two, I want to see the fight, but this is getting ridiculous, right? So my wife is sleeping next to me. I've got my headphones on. I'm watching it on my phone. I'm doing one of these where I'm like, right? I watched, and I had told everybody that I didn't think Tyson had a chance at all. I thought Roy Jones Jr. was going to school him because he's been active. Tyson hasn't fought in 15 years. Like there's no way you just take a 15-year break and you come back to anything sort of competitive. And I watched that first round and I'm like, oh, Tyson still got it. And I'm like, oh my God, he's so fast in the first round. I'm like, just like powerful, walking him down. I'm like, this is unreal. And I'm like, nah, I watched the first round. I'm like, Roy Jones is going to lose this fight. And then I fall asleep and I just wake up, phone still in my hand, fourth round. And I'm like, oh man. And like, okay, he's slowed down quite a bit and I didn't see what happened in the second and third round, but like Tyson was still in control. And I was watching this and even the lead up to the fight where they had like them walking down those hallways and like the setup they had, it was like boxing really does a good job. You know what I mean? Promoting this stuff. Cause I was like,
well, they're a new new promotion, that Triller.
I think they're like the pay-per-view service that they used.
They use Fight TV.
But Triller was the promotion?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So
they use Fight, which
my fight was on Fight on the 11th, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the same. It was the same, but it was Triller was the promotion that put it on.
Okay.
Right, so they're like, I'm not sure how they do it in boxing, but it's like because it wasn't sanctioned. It was like an exhibition or whatever, right? But in all my opinion, and listen, I grew up watching both these guys. I'm 41 years old. Tyson was like my becoming a teenager. Roy Jones was teenager, and I was a Roy Jones fanatic. I love Roy Jones Jr. And I just felt like they didn't put any heat on anything that they were throwing. The body shots, 100%. Tyson was throwing up, but he never threw any uppercuts.
Yeah. So you think they actually followed the C7?
Fucking right they did, bro. It was exhibition to the bone. Yeah. And I think if Tyson wanted to put him away, he would have.
You think so?
I think he could have.
I was still impressed. Like I was watching that and I was like, man, like I cannot believe that this is like I thought it was going to be like a joke almost. You know what I mean? But I like enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too because it was like it was nostalgic for me to see both of my favorite fighters from my childhood, youth come together. Seeing them as old men was hard to see because you're like, man, fuck, Father Time doesn't fuck around. Like it doesn't matter who you are. And they both still delivered. They both still came out and put on a show. Yeah. But as for the killer instinct, I think. Let's say we put them back both in their prime. Yeah, I think Tyson would have fucking clobbered him, bro. I felt like Roy Jones didn't have the power in him to stop him. I felt like everything that he did hit Tyson with, Tyson didn't budge. His head didn't move. His fucking head is this big.
I know.
Yeah, like he didn't move. Like bang, he just took him like it was nothing, and he threw devastating body shots that Roy absorbed. Said it hurt him. But Tyson's a body, head, like body, head. Like he didn't do those combinations.
He wasn't going back to the head.
He wasn't going back to the head. There was a couple big lefts that he threw that Roy, being so crafty as he is, he just dipped out of the way, which he was great at, and thankfully he did. But I don't think to me, it didn't seem like he was in there to finish him.
Did you think Roy won any rounds or no? In theory?
Well, they hugged a lot. Yeah. So and here's the thing with Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson. Roy Jones is he slips and dips. He goes. He's always moving, and I think he didn't do that with Tyson because most guys that fought Tyson were always put back on their heels running, and that's when they would get clipped and KO'd. I think he stood his ground and stayed with him, and that's why they kept coming together. That's what I think, anyways. Just from watching it.
Yeah, like Roy Jones would even like level change a little bit, get in tight, and then just go shoulder to belly and rise back up, and then land a couple shots. Or
but that's where
Tyson land a couple shots to the body, and then they would get separated a little bit.
But Tyson would uppercut guys in that, and when you get close, because you're like, I would see him, I go, oh, is he gonna throw a big fucking uppercut? He didn't throw any.
Yeah,
none that I've seen, anyways. Like, or I remember seeing, but he didn't throw any uppercuts, and that's what he finished. He'd finish guys with that. He'd come in with a left hook to the body. Left uppercut, boom, like straight up to the air, and then if he didn't catch you with that, he hit you with the left hook. And I found a lot of times that when he could have threw the left hook, he didn't.
True. I remember him seeing like in this fight landing a big left hook. I can't like again. I was half asleep, so I couldn't remember where it was, but I remember seeing him land a big left hook. It's probably like in the fourth or fifth round where I was like,
I did see a couple. You're right. I did see a couple of those where Roy had his hands up.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
But I think they both went at that knowing it was exhibition. I think they played it up. They're not going to say, oh, it's just an exhibition.
Yeah.
Why the fuck would they? They're trying to make money off of it. They're going to say, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm going to take his head off. But I think they had a mutual respect for each other that they took it easy. It really looked like a professional sparring match. That's what I think. I'm still happy with it, though. It still fed my childhood dream of like seeing, but I would have liked to seen them both in their prime.
True.
Just remember, Tyson only had like a 3-year run, like 87 to 90 or whatever. So so he had a small little run, then he went to jail, and then he came out, and then he was never really the same. And in all honesty, and Mike Tyson fans are gonna fucking shit on me for this, I think Evander Holyfield would have beat him before he went to jail.
Really?
I do. Yeah. Evander Holyfield was just a different guy. He was just a much better boxer. And I don't think Tyson ever faced that,
Yeah.
Crazy.
I was too young. Like when I remember watching Mike Tyson fights, but I was too young because by the time I really started to pay attention, he was already fighting Evander Holyfield, who's already losing to Lennox Lewis. Like I would have to go back and watch his fights and like learn more about him. But when he was in his prime, I was like a baby. Right?
Yeah. See, I was in like junior high school.
Yeah.
And it was like everybody was on the Tyson train because he was finishing guys in one round. Nobody had seen that for such a long time. They were seeing guys go the distance, whereas we're a culture of being impatient. We want to destroy, want to see shit finished.
Like a car accident.
Yeah, it's a morbid curiosity. Yeah. We love watching them just destroy guys.
Yeah, there's like a lot of casual fight fans are not a fan of boxing. They're a fan of head trauma. They want to see someone get fucked up. Doesn't matter about the matchups or anything like that. It's just more satisfying to them. And that's why you see, like, that's why you see if a car accident on the highway, the other side slowed right down because everybody wants to see what's going on there. You know what I mean? That's why if you get into a fight in a schoolyard, everybody piles around. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to see a fight, but nobody wants to see, like, it's hard to sell that type of, like, even with my friends who don't train, it's like their view on fighting is completely different from what I see. We're watching two different things, you know what I mean? And a lot of people want to see like sloppy striking, big overhand rights and stuff like that. And you ever watch the 1FC Muay Thai division where they have them fighting Muay Thai in small gloves?
Dude, so fucking
it is wild. It is wild. And these are like world-class fighters. Yep. Like one has become like the top kickboxing promotion, the top Muay Thai promotion in the world now because they're taking all of the best kickboxers and Muay Thai fighters. And the Muay Thai fighters are fighting each other in MMA gloves, which is nuts. Those fights are...
Liam Harrison, bro.
Yeah. He's fantastic.
I watch him all day.
Yeah. And his style is like very crowd pleasing.
Yeah. Because he just fuck everything he throws. He throws with bad intentions. Yeah. And he's like wicked at sweeps. Yeah. I could watch him all day. They got a unique position because it's different rule set over there. You couldn't do that. I'm sure. You probably could do that here, but it would be you couldn't do it in Ontario. You couldn't do MMA and Muay Thai in a cage with small gloves.
No, I had a couple Pride Rules fights in Thailand.
And
it was cool, man. I was glad that I never had to like defend any soccer kicks or anything like that. But there was this.
Did you soccer kick anyone?
No, but there was one fight where I was fighting this Russian guy in Bangkok, and in the first round, I got him in a cradle. So I had his head. I had my arm through his leg. It's called a cradle. really good control position. But when I had him there, it dips your head towards the mat, and I could just give him like, I would say 14 unanswered knees to the head. Didn't get knocked out. Went to his corner, like clearly fucked up, and he actually ended up finishing the fight. But while it was happening, I was like, oh man, this does not feel good. You know what I mean? Like, this guy is defenseless. And when you watch somebody get soccer kicked, it's like hard to see. You know what I mean? It's ruthless, right? And I had another fight. So I have on my pro record an open weight fight at heavyweight. Like, I fought this Thai guy who was like 120 kilos, right? But he was just a Muay Thai fighter. He couldn't grapple at all. And like took him down and was like same, like from like top side control, knees to the head. And that's like illegal essentially everywhere else outside of Asia, right? So those were wild fights. And there's like, yeah, it kind of forces action in sort of stall positions on the ground up against the cage, because it forces you to like, you've got to be quicker to make a decision. I can't like keep my hand down and just risk maybe getting punched. Like, I have to make a move because the threat of getting finished in those positions is so much higher now, right? So it forces you to kind of like put yourself in worse off positions, and it kind of keeps the threat of like it happening to you, keeps the action going a little bit more. So it's good, but I am thankful that I never had to be in a position with like, okay, I might die here. You know what I mean?
Or you might kill somebody.
Yeah, I don't want to soccer. I don't want to soccer. So to be fair, I don't think they do the soccer kicks in one anymore. Yeah. But knees to a grounded opponent is still a thing, and that's like, I think that's a little bit more reasonable, right?
For sure.
Like, if you are, even on the bottom, like using your knees on the ground and elbows like 12-6 and all this stuff, like that's kind of silly. Like, I think if you put that into fights now, there's positions where not somebody's trying to stall, but where like the action kind of stops a little bit, and the threat of getting hurt in those positions, because I know that like if I've got one hand down, my knee's kind of wedged in between the floor and the cage, I've got a minute to get back to my feet. I don't have to worry about it. You might be able to chip away on me, but you're not going to do any real damage if I can defend myself pretty good. But if you can throw a knee from that position, like, you're in trouble, right? You've got to make something happen for yourself quick. Yeah. So. Well,
that's the beauty of the sport, though. It's forever evolving. I think they're taking things out and changing things out. It's still new to us, right? Yeah. It's only been around for so many years, and it's only been around mainstream for so many years. So now it's like, we change the rules as we go and tweak them. So maybe that's something that can be added later.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a rule that you could probably put in right now, and I think the fighters would like the majority of them would agree that it belongs in. 12-6 elbows, again, kind of a silly one, even though that stuff's never really even called anymore. Even if there was
a fight in ONE FC, and the guy he speared down on the guy's fucking and KO'd him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but that's a legitimate.
So beautiful.
Like people get knocked out with a straight punch to the face. Why is it different from an elbow?
Or I can lay my shin across your head, but I can't like drop my elbow in like not even like a very advantageous position either. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to generate power that way.
That's the thing. I think like I'm kind of like you. Like I would love to see like a knee on a downed opponent, but not like 15 of them. Yeah. It should be like 1 or 2 unanswered, and then something's called, like, I don't know, something like that, you know? Because I find that head trauma hard to watch. I hate seeing someone's eyes glaze over. Stresses me out.
Sometimes it can be brutal. Like in the undercard of the Tyson fight last night, the Nate Robinson.
Yeah.
Just like a first ever boxing fight gets just crunched in front of so many people. You know what I mean?
That was
like,
a
what?
Paycheck, though.
Yeah, what's this guy thinking, man? Like, hey, what are you doing, man? Like, you just get fucked up, like completely flatlined in front of millions of people who are just about to watch, salivating at the thought that Mike Tyson might knock somebody out.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Well, at least we got that little taste.
Yeah.
Quick question before we wrap this up.
Yeah.
When you were in Thailand doing a Tiger Muay Thai, did you guys do blindfolded boxing?
No.
You didn't do any of that when you were there? Because I started that at that camp.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We had a barbecue for some girl's birthday one day. Yeah. And I said to all the Thai trainers, I was like, hey, we should do blindfolded boxing.
Yeah.
And they were like, ah! Like they were so super excited. But I had seen it there as like a tradition.
Yeah.
So they kept it going. So I was wondering if you had.
Yeah, I've
if you
seen
had
it too. No, I didn't do it though.
Yeah, that was me that started that.
Really?
Yeah. Because I was like, we should do blindfolded boxing. It was all for a birthday party for some chick that was training there or whatever. So and the Thais loved it, and we'd all blindfold each other, and the Thai guys would spin the guy around in the ring, and then let him go, and they just swing, and they're all yelling at each other, left, over to the right, and then it was cool that tradition kind of carried on there. So I wanted to see, I wasn't sure if you got to see that. Do you want to give a shout out to any sponsors, Board, before we wrap this up?
Yeah. So a couple of my bigger sponsors,
Kimura Wear.
Yeah. Yeah. So
they've been with you for a long time.
Yeah, they've been long time sponsors. So if you're interested in any, awesome Canadian training gear, you want to support a local business this Black Friday, you can head over to their website and receive 40% off the entire site.
Cyber Monday, we'll call it.
Cyber Monday, but it's, Black Friday is not one day anymore. Yeah, everybody runs it for a couple weeks. They don't want people getting trampled at Walmart. Also, A&S Performance. If you're looking for, amazing supplements that are all clean, they have an entire line that's certified banned substance free. So you're not going to have any bullshit mixed up in there, specifically if you're a combat athlete or if you just don't want your supplements fucked with in any way. Go through them. They also have an amazing keto line. So if you go to my Facebook or my Instagram at Handsome Scott Hudson, click on the link in my bio, you can receive 20% off everything in the site. And over, Black Friday, they're doing a lot of like giveaways where buy one, get one free, buy this product, get this extra gift, and free shipping as well.
Beautiful.
So yeah, you can head over there, get some stock up on some amazing gear and some, amazing fuel. And
any specific like gloves or shin guards or anything that you like that you'd recommend?
Yeah, I use like I think it's the Fusion line, 16-ounce gloves to spar in. But whatever the latest stuff is, I use it. I like to hit pads in the lace ups. Top quality. Check it out.
Fuck yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Handsome Scott Hudson.
Thank you for having
me.
My
man, appreciate it.
Want to give a shout out to Devolution Productions. Devolution Productions is the production company I use to produce my podcast and to do a lot of my fight-related stuff. The absolute best production company I've had the opportunity to work with. And if you're looking to get any work done or any kind of videos or anything professional, Devolution Productions is the company to contact. To get a hold of them, just inbox me, shoot me a message, text me, call me, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere, any of those handles, and I'll connect you in a heartbeat. Devolution Productions is, bar none, the best production company in Canada.